There is mounting controversy over the international trade agreement involving New Zealand. The Trans-Pacific Partnership Agreement is being negotiated at present amidst widespread public opposition. And Professor Robert Patman of the University of Otago joins us to discuss its potential impact on New Zealand's international relations. A very good evening.
Good evening, Craig.
Very good evening. This is a very, very powerful thing. What is the TPPA?
It's a regional free trade agreement involving 12 countries, and those 12 countries are the countries in which we do 70% of our trade with. So it's a very important, we're trying to put together an agreement with partners that we already have a high level of trade with, but we're trying to deepen that process.
What sort of, are these sorts of trade agreements, are they common? Are they a common?
Increasingly they are the case. For example, there is the regional comprehensive partnership agreement between the ASEAN members and also 6 WTO members. There's also something called the Regional Alliance for Trade in South America, which embraces a whole swathe of countries. So these are increasingly the case that countries are seeking to recognise their interdependence and build in trade links to go with it. So yes, I mean, and the big question, of course, raised by these negotiations is, first of all, the negotiations are being conducted largely in secret, so we've had to rely on leaks and what's happening. Right. And secondly, the big question is, if the agreement may not be perfect, but will it be worse or better than if we decide not to sign?
The absence of transparency here is of concern.
Yes.
There's a lot of drama concerning the government's involvement and engagement with the TPPA. Do you think this will likely affect our international trade relations if we don't sign?
I think, well, given the fact that 70% of our exports go to the 12 Asia-Pacific countries who are involved, there's a high probability that's the case. China's not involved, and I suppose advocates for the deal would say the experience of New Zealand in free trade agreements, for example, with China, with other members, individual bilateral free trade agreements with other members of the 12 who are participating in the TPPA, has been extremely beneficial. The East-West Centre, for example, estimates that New Zealand's exports will go up by $4 billion by 2025. Now that's economic modelling, that's projection. Right. But of course there's some powerful counter-arguments going on at the moment about the downside of us joining the free trade agreement.
The devil you know, the devil you don't.
Right. Yeah. I think the major concerns are, firstly, that this agreement could represent a massive extension of American law to the 12. Of course, other countries, other countries other than America, are deeply concerned about that. But there's a big concern that the American pharmaceutical companies, many of the big pharmaceutical companies in the world are American. That could have negative impact on our ability to produce cheap medicine, or relatively cheap medicines, pharmac, for New Zealand citizens. So many people are seeing this as an infringement on New Zealand's health care system. The other concern that has surfaced in recent days concerns whether actually our dairy sector will benefit in the way that was initially anticipated, because some of the players, such as the United States, Canada, and Japan, are very reluctant to remove the subsidies for the agricultural sector. And of course we don't have subsidies in this country, and so we're looking for a level playing field to expand our exports, and that seems to be meeting opposition.
This is going to be a very interesting time ahead of us in the very near future. Professor Patman from the
University of
Otago, thank you very much indeed.